We're on.
Awesome. We have somebody. All right.
Yes. Oh, great. Thank you.
Hey.
Hi, guys.
All right. Hey,
Rick's gonna.
Janine, Teresa, David, Rosemary. Hello. Welcome. Bob H, Sue, Emily, Julie. Hello. Nancy, welcome tonight. Appreciate you coming in. Lynn, Thomas, Christian. Thank you. Joanne, thank you for coming in. Love to have you here. Tina, Ursula, Jonathan, Nancy also. And if you want to tell us where you're hailing from, that's awesome as well. I appreciate that always. So we are very, very glad to have you guys here tonight and have the chance to just chat and see where we get something. Hey, welcome to I think Michael, Lisa, Tina. View through the spectrum. Hello, view through the spectrum. That I'd like to see that view sometime. That would
Oh,
be
I like
cool.
that name.
That is very cool.
Hi,
Uh,
Julie.
Hey, Julie from Portland. All right. And Insanity in USA, Southern California. Welcome. And yes, great,
Great name.
great, great name. Love it. Um, Absolutely. We'll just give it a few seconds here as people join and come on. Hi, Tina. Emily, welcome from Asheville. Bob H. Oh, yes. Waukee, Iowa. Iowa. Awesome. I've been through Iowa. I've driven through Iowa. I have not stopped in Iowa for a long period of time. Uh, what else we got? Nikki, hello, welcome. Thanks for coming. We've got kind of a mixed as we get going here, and as our audience continues. I also see something weird, by the way, Lisa. Just so you know,
Okay.
on my live, it is frozen.
Oh,
So I'm gonna
on
reload.
my end, it looks okay.
I mean, so you have another computer with the website up?
Oh,
Or-
I don't.
I do. Okay,
Oh,
that's
okay.
what I'm worrying about.
Hmm.
It seemed to be picking up, and then it's spinning dial. So we will just keep plugging along here while we've got stuff because I do not show any signs of life at the moment for the video. Hey, can if anybody's on, and could you tell us if just reply back in the message down there at the bottom if you can see the live video or if things are frozen, and I'll be looking for you or anyone that is on right up to this point. If you can let us know, that would be really appreciated that we're
Yeah.
here. Because mine is frozen on my computer, and okay, you're both good. Good. So
Thank you,
we've got
Julie.
it. Thank
Thank
you,
you,
Julie. Thank
Insanity in
you,
the
all you
USA.
guys.
Thank
Tina,
you.
everybody. All right. All right. So we had a couple things, right? And I wanted to actually dovetail into, if it's okay with you, Lisa, welcome
Sure.
everybody. First of all, we have a kind of a platter of things we're going to talk about tonight. Maybe one will take more time than the other. But if you had a quick live you did last night. Thank you so much for that because I was at a commission and
Yeah.
so that was great. But if you could kind of maybe just recap quickly
Sure.
what the basics of it were so that we can talk about that. And then I did some additional research too, so I might be
Perfect.
able, maybe not. We'll see. But I might have some information that might be helpful with that as we go forward. So, Lisa, why don't you please take it away? And
Of course. Oh, again, just like Rick said, thank you so much for everybody for being here. I did that mini live yesterday. I came on, like I said, I'm getting better at them, and especially solo. I feel like I need a little bit more practice the more I do it. So it was about 15 minutes, I think, but I actually got a bug up my butt about well, first of all, private equity firms
bugs
acquiring
are no good.
assets.
Yeah.
Yeah, oh God, it just like drives me crazy. So I came across a story where apparently it's happening right now where BlackRock is looking to acquire utility companies. But in this particular, I read about it a little bit more last night. This is in Minnesota, Duluth, Minnesota, and it's not necessarily just that utility company. They are trying to acquire the parent company that owns the utility company, which seems a lot more dangerous because that parent company controls like a lot more than just that, that smaller utility company itself.
Right.
So From what I understand, because we already know BlackRock, Vanguard, BlackRock is huge. Then
And
there's
Blackstone is another
Blackstone.
black to keep out. Yeah.
Yes. And what I was reading about was that because Blackstone has cornered the market like on real estate. And that really bothers me, basically that they're buying up all of these, huge blocks of single family homes, rental units, apartments, and selling it back to people, like outbidding them and then selling it back like at exorbitant prices, of course, the
Mhm.
name of the game. And so Blackstone has been getting a lot more return on their investment. And the story is that BlackRock is now wanting to do more of that because they didn't really have much of like a big chunk of ownership like Blackstone does. They go
Right.
around and they acquire pieces of things, like they own pieces of airports, they own pieces, so it's just like these little snippets, but not as comprehensive as Blackstone. And that's what they're looking to do. And that's why they're looking at utility companies and having to do with AI, of course, because
Right.
that's also going to be part of our utilities and our resources.
Right.
Frightening.
Right. So at any point where I can interject a couple
Go
things, let me
ahead,
know
please,
if you're
please.
okay. Good point to interrupt. All right, or not
Yes.
interrupt, but
No, no, no.
inject.
Excellent. Excellent.
Yeah, as part of my background, for those of you that don't know, I'll share with you this much of my resume. So for a period of time, I worked for the world's largest hedge fund, which is Bridgewater, in they're basically based out of Westport, Connecticut, and I did a lot of the, just call it technology stuff. It was in management, and so I got to see an interesting view into that world of how money works somewhat on the East Coast, right? When I don't want to overclaim or overstep anything or overstate what I do or don't know, right? It's more of just by being around a lot of people, I got the opportunity to pick up a lot of little pieces of information, and I absorbed them like a sponge. So one of the things that is really interesting about how Black BlackRock operates is that they are very, very overt. They are so direct with their clients that they say our number one goal, without a doubt, they don't fence around it, they don't hedge it. They say our number one goal is to increase the return on your investment, which means that's dollars and dollars and more dollars, right? So they have a very direct, very simple marketing strategy and a very simple uh, business strategy, if you want to put it like that, is finance and acquisition. But what they've done over a long period of time is accumulate, and I mean long, many, many years, they have accumulated a enormous number of things, but to the point where there's basically nowhere you can go in a store, anywhere pretty much in the United States at least, without touching something that was either made, funded, or in some way influenced by the presence of BlackRock, right? Financial, because they have invested over periods of time, like Lisa was saying, in many, many things, right? Now let's fast forward to this particular Blackstone was doing a different thing, by the way, and I want to talk about that for just a second before I go on. Blackstone's strategy of property acquisition. If you all are familiar a little bit with at least the world of real estate and how it works, the idea, the basic idea, is that the entire universe of homes runs on a thing called a comp system. So, how do you know how much your house is worth after it's been sitting there for 20 years or 10 years? How do they pick a number out of the blue that it's valued at, right? And that should somehow go or trace back to some more like tangible things. But if you start to compare prices, for example, in California or in Oregon or around Seattle, where I've lived, and or West Coast, or sorry, excuse me, East Coast in Connecticut, or in the Midwest and like in Ohio or surrounding states to that, you will see that the same home can range in price between anywhere from, let's say, a $65,000, or maybe let's make it more realistic, $190,000 home here in what we would call the Midwest, is going to probably sell for upwards of 900,000 to 950,000 in California easily, right? And so you ask yourself, why is that different? And it really comes down to one. about two simple principles. One is how much money the people are making that live in that particular
Mhm.
area relative to all the other values of the houses and so forth. So there's a higher wage basis that goes into the California real estate market. It just keeps it simple. Now, next thing, going back to my sentence on comps, it is when you go for my $195,000 Ohio home or Midwest home and you say, "Hey, what's this worth?" They go look out in the neighborhood and they say, "How many properties have sold recently, and how much, in terms of bedroom, floor, number of square feet in the floor plan, garage space, and so on and so forth." There's all the characteristics of the house, right? They look at it and they look for comparables, right? Which is where the word comps comes from. And they say, "Oh, over here's this house and it's sold for, $200,000. So this one maybe is lacking a deck out back. So we'll just price it down a little bit to 195,000." And that's how they get it. So they'll comp one house, they'll comp another house. Now, here's what's the problem with Blackstone is that Blackstone has made it a mission to buy up your neighborhood. So every time
Yes.
a home sells in there, the next question that comes up is when there is a free home, they look at the comps and they will try to price the stuff that they are buying favorably to them. But for anybody new coming in that wants to buy it, they can value that home much, much, much higher because they own when they do the comparables, right? They say in that area that, let's say, before it was maybe 150,000, now becomes 400,000
Oh,
or it
wow.
becomes half a million. And that's because, again, comparable price drives the market price, right? And so that's a scary proposition on the home front, just alone in the real estate market. It's also the same story, by the way. Most companies that have a real estate construction side to them also have they hedge the market by also getting into the rental unit business so that because the two operate typically offset from each other. When the rental units are doing really well, means people can't afford homes. They can sell these rental or they can rent the rental units for a higher price while the homes prices are depressed. And then when the other way around is true, the prices go down in the rentals and the home prices go up. So they win no matter which way. It's like the house wins no matter what. And
Mhm.
that's kind of a crazy situation. Now, in this particular thing, I wanted to lay out, and I don't know if you caught the timeline on this acquisition, right? Right now, it is to give you the thing that we were talking about with respect to the Minnesota power
Mhm.
grid and BlackRock's acquisition of it. There are a large number of people who are throwing sand into the gears of this thing because it has to go through the Public Utilities Commission of Minnesota. It's called MPUC, I think MPUC, and those guys have right now are in that comments period. This started on July 15th.
Mhm.
The judge that is over it, name is Megan McKenzie, issued a non-binding recommendation to reject the deal, concluding it would cause quote net harm to the public interest. She
Right.
cited unproven capital benefits, profit-driven rate hikes, BlackRock's fossil fuel ties, and the buyers of lack of cooperation and transparency during the hearings. In other words, so they were withholding documents during that. So it's a dirty dealing already. Then in August, there's been mixed reactions from green groups on doing this. And then in September, there's several advocacy groups jumping in who are also against the deal, trying to push it away. So there is a resistance to this, and I'd be curious. I wish we had a hand, voting hand or something like that. People could stick up, but most people hear like, well, AI, and then they hear energy, and I don't know if you got into this, Lisa, but I'll ask. Uh, did you get into explaining why AI is such
No.
an energy consumer? Okay,
Yes,
so
and that's what I would like to know, actually.
yeah. So it's a great question because a lot of people don't realize what's actually happening here in behind the scenes. So AI runs on a large number of simultaneous computers, right? If you use ChatGPT from OpenAI or Copilot, I'm just looking here to look at my different options that I have up on the screen, or Perplexity AI or Claude. any one of those, right? That when you fire a question at it, it goes through and it examines a huge amount of online data in a very, very, very
Mhm.
fast way to come up with the answer that it sends back to you. But in order to do that, that that information that it is searching needs to be encoded and it needs to be translated from, let's say, if we have the I'm just going to pick a book out of thin air, the Holy Bible, right? It's a big, thick, complicated book. It's got to be translated into a language that the OpenAI or the ChatGPT understands, which is all math, by the way, behind the scenes. That's called training. And training runs a computer at absolutely gas pedal
Mhm.
depressed through the floor. When that happens, there is an enormous consumption spike in that goes on of energy. And the energy right now, the theorists are saying, and this is what's really scary about this. The theorists are saying that during the last couple of iterations of training, they've thrown so much data at this thing, but they've only gotten very little in returns
Hmm.
from the AI in terms of it getting that much smarter. It's like they're inching towards it now, as opposed to if you were around back in the days of Chat GPT version 3 versus 3.5 versus all the variations of it. Every time they would release a new model, this thing would get like light years suddenly smarter. It's now getting just inches and inches
Hmm.
and millimeters and millimeters smarter, but it's consuming all this energy to suck in that information and code it into numbers. And the computers themselves are very, very, very energy intensive
Yes.
during the training. They're not energy intensive during the time that just you and I are, sitting there asking it questions because it's already pretty much mapped everything out. It
Mm.
just needs to go fetch it. In the training phase of the next version of things, what most of these companies have done is put these gigantic dollar figures out there for the energy consumption and for the sizes of the data center. Basically, right now we're in the mode of hype. And I hate to tell you this, but the hype says that bigger is better. Bigger,
Mhm.
more computing power equals smarter AI, which is ultimately on the way. If you've ever listened to Sam Altman, who's the CEO of OpenAI, talk about it, he wants to get to a thing called AGI or generalized intelligence, meaning he wants something to be as smart as a human
Man.
on the computer side. And so the idea is that, just throw as much money and hardware at training more and more and more and more on the computer side during the training phases of it. And eventually, if you do that long enough, you're going to end up with a smarter AI that does things. Now, I'm oversimplifying certainly 5, 10 things, but just for the
Right.
expediency part, there's I'll tell you what,
Oh,
I've worked extensively for years with AI before it was even known as before what I worked on was something some of you might recognize, which is called machine learning, which is where you train, for example, a machine to recognize a complicated pattern. And I'll give you an example of that. So if you use your credit card and you go and you buy gas and you're fine, you buy it in let's just say, I'll make up a city, Cleveland, Ohio. You buy it there. The stuff that I worked on would identify if, like, at 5 o'clock, you swiped your card at a gas station in Cleveland, and then at 6 o'clock, you swiped your card at a gas station in Philadelphia. Now, that's impossible. That cannot happen, right? You can't physically be in two
right.
places, which means your card was stolen. So
Mm.
that's the machine learning. Like that was way back in the aughts, right, in the
Yeah,
2000s.
that's the cue that
Right.
the credit card companies would pick up,
Right.
right? Like,
Yep,
and
right.
alert you to fraud.
It's
Okay.
fraud alert, stuff
Mhm.
like that, and then it moved on and became more, focused on language, and then that's where we got the AI, and then I worked on that quite
Mm.
a bit, but I will tell you my without getting into the math and the concepts behind it, my opinion is very strong that this is not a case where if you throw enough, hardware and enough, text at a computer or visuals at a computer or movies or whatever, any content that it's eventually just going to suddenly achieve self-awareness and achieve this artificial intelligence state. It's going to get really smart about facts. But if
Right.
you notice, if you don't tell it what to go look for, it does not always, it sometimes phases out, sometimes does things. There's a reason, there are a lot of reasons for that. And my fundamental thing is that we are going to have the smartest AIs in terms of book knowledge, but they're not going to know the human side of innovation because they can't duplicate
Right.
what's called improvisation that happens inside of our heads. We imagine things. Computers do not. AI does not imagine things. And so the best you're going to get is a copy of something that somebody already imagined, and they'll pull it back for you, but they're not gonna imagine it out of thin air
Yes.
themselves. So that's where the
Hmm.
problem is going to manifest itself, and I see it really hitting hard in 2026, where a lot of companies are going, "Wait, we've tied a bunch of business processes to this stuff. We've let people go. We've been assured that this is all gonna work this way, and it's not." And when that happens, there's gonna be a big scramble and a big rush to get these people back,
Wow.
because they're going to realize that human knowledge and the ability to actually sort complex problems in certain ways is not something a computer is equipped yet to do. I'm not going to
See,
say it's
that's
never going to be that.
interesting
Yeah.
because I had no idea. I didn't even think about that aspect because I'm not experienced with AI.
Yeah. No,
So
it's not, most
somebody that
people
has
don't.
no, this is great information to know because I mean,
Yeah.
it's very ethereal to us. Like we really, it's
Yeah.
very, like we can't define it. We know what it is, basically what AI is, but we don't know the logistics like how you do. So
Yeah.
that is very interesting.
Yeah,
Hmm.
and it is something I hope that it's helpful for folks, and I hope that I can speak at a level where it makes sense to everybody, and if it doesn't, that you all jump on me and hold me accountable, hold
Yeah.
my feet to the fire, right?
Yeah,
At least I
definitely
know
let us
you'll
know.
do that, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
for
you'll be like,
sure.
"What the hell is he
I'll be like,
talking about?"
"Hold on." Yeah.
Right.
Now, one
And
thing, if I could switch gears really quick, if
sure.
you have any information about this in terms of the private equity firms that I am, like,
Yeah.
so afraid of that are acquiring all these assets, one trend that I have seen is, the purchase of, medical offices, dental office, even veterinary offices
Yeah.
from private practitioners,
Right.
and that really frightens me because anything that would go more corporate and more profit driven and not about the care of the patient, whether it's human or animal, is
Right.
really, well, it could be really disgusting. And I've
Yeah.
been to some of these corporate, because I know that there's a lot of dental offices that have been bought up. I see them all over the place, medical practices as well. And I've been to a veterinary office where my veterinarian joined the practice, like gave up his practice and basically became an employee, which is,
I know this
the
story,
goal,
yes.
right?
It's happened many
And
times,
even though the
yes.
doctor is fantastic, you could tell that the
Their soul has
the
been removed?
oh yeah,
Sorry.
the treatment plans, the way that they're geared, everything is about nickel and diming, everything it's just you could totally tell even if it's something that's someone is not aware of the private equity situation, you
Right.
absolutely could pick up on that shift.
That's
And
right.
it's really frightening. So I don't know if you have any
Yeah.
information about that because when I have talked to some people, and I said this yesterday on my live, I have talked to a couple people where I'll pick their brains because they are in that industry and they're kind of
Right.
apologetic about it. They're like, "Well, I mean, these private equity firms, they're looking for good investments." And I'm like, "I don't know, man. This does not sound like this. This looks like a rabid buy-up." Like
Right.
that's just what it looks like to me. And then somebody had said before, like, "Well, there are some doctors instead of going into private practice, if they're with the hospital." I'm like, I'm not talking about the doctors that are at the hospital. I'm talking about a private practice. And at least with dental, with doctors, dentists, I've seen because many of them aren't affiliated with the hospital, they would go into private practice. And
Yes.
that has been a trend where I mean, I understand the business aspect of a dental office is very difficult. So I guess
Yes.
I could get it, but this just seems like a trend that is exponentially growing, and I just find it alarming.
Right, right. Well, okay, so, um, let me see, I'm trying to figure out where to best start with that. Um, so there are a couple of reasons why private equity moved into the medical space, and more that you wouldn't think of as being the first reasons, but they're actually the probably the biggest drivers, which is they need and they want access to private patient data. That's
Mm,
probably the most important thing because, again, you all probably remember, and I'm gonna ask you everybody here a question on our in our group, which is if you can think back just far enough, let's just say maybe 10 years ago, and you were to dial up a uh, doctor's office, or you might dial up your insurance company, or you might, and you would hear a constant phrase at the beginning of the call, which would say, this call may be recorded for training purposes. Do
yeah.
you remember that? And you thought to yourself, oh, okay, well they're probably just using this as a thing where they'll take this example, they'll play it to a new employee, the new employee will pick it up, and they'll move on, and they'll go, okay, that's how I handled this type of situation. And if the caller wants this, then the employee learns that the response is that. Now, if you remember that, I want to tell you something you were acknowledging by continuing the call. It was true that this call was going to be used for training. The thing people did not understand at the time was that the thing it was training wasn't human. It was
Wow.
a machine. And it was listening to everything that was happening in that recording. And it was cycling on the patient data, the information that was collected, all of the things, how long it took, what process the person followed, so that programmers didn't have to sit in legion, sitting
Mm,
there coding away for forever, basically. It would just do self-learning by listening to enough of these aggregate conversations when all put together and shoved in a pipe and put into the brain of the machine learning, was it, well, the artificial intelligence for our purposes now. And it's been doing this. We've got data going back to the before the year 2000. We've got so much of it that it would boggle the mind if I started describing it in terms of proportion, because every one of those calls was recorded, classified, it was slotted, and it was sold to somebody to train
man.
a data set so that it could be an AI. And I know you love hearing this, but I want you to understand how important your data is. The data that you share, the things that you say, the stuff that is, whenever a call is recorded, and it says it's recording this call for training purposes, or even today they just drop it. They just say this call is being recorded. F you.
Mhm.
I mean, they don't
Mm,
say the F you part, but that's what you get. Now, why does this matter to private equity? Well, because they are squeezing returns on an investment. That's one of the things that they do is they put a laser dot right on what am I going to get back out of this after we're done with whatever we're doing? What is it that I'm going to sell off at the end of this? And what is it that I'm going to earn in terms of cash up here as a result of the investment that I make? And in that particular case, think about who the big stock market super price to earnings stock prices are in terms of Google, Nvidia, uh, uh, OpenAI, XAI. All these big companies, all of a sudden, their share prices are going through the roof because they're making the big push to say we've got to train harder, train harder, train harder. Well, they can't do that for free. They've got to buy the data now. They've already consumed well beyond all the free stuff. That was back in Chat GPT 2, 2.5, and 3. That's when they got done with
mm,
running through all of your tweets, running through all of your Reddit posts, which there's a whole shice load of those. And all of that sort of has now been processed and massaged and put into the baseline. Now it's a matter of collecting the more intelligent and actual behavioral data that people do, things that people act on. So it wants to measure your your sentences. It wants to look at how you
mm,
say things, all the variations, and think about just in the ethnicity alone. Like if you live in Brooklyn or New Jersey, and the tone in your voice is one way, or if you live in the Midwest, it's another. If you're in California, I can assure you you are a third way, and we all sound weird to you. But that bottom line is, humor aside, that is absolutely a very difficult task for a computer to comprehend, which is just regional accents that go through from coast to coast. Let alone now, let's expand to the global market. There's lots and lots and lots and lots of that. So the the very first thing, back to your question about why are they
Mhm.
buying up these practices, is number one, it's access to the data. Number two, it is access to the ability for them to understand the financials at a micro level and take big swaths of that cost out. Because like what you do or what I've seen done in doctors' offices, a lot of that stuff is repeatable, and anything that you can automate away is, in other words, move it to a lower
Mm.
cost model. That's what we used to say in corporate America is I can take this particular thing where a patient, for example, I will say this. Just today, I was at a doctor appointment, not for myself, but for a relative, and the doctor walked in and set down his phone. Said, "Hey, I'm recording this, by the way. Is that okay with you guys?" Yeah, 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 fine. And what that phone was doing the entire appointment was assessing the doctor, assessing the patient, assessing his relative, and it was generating a summation at the end that transcribes for the doctor all the medical notes, and then for the patient, a summary of the entire visit. That's what they wanna automate because they
Mm.
bring all this stuff together. They say in the medical tech and in the actual, visitation process of treating patients, we can bring and marry these levels together and achieve cost savings and hopefully even a better patient experiences, but that I guarantee you is secondary to
That's what I
making
was
it
just
more efficient.
yes, and now
So
if that was primary, that would be one thing. That would be using AI as a tool for good
right.
for the
It
people. Okay,
is,
sorry
and
to interrupt.
yeah, by the way, your sound is way down. Did you happen to turn your volume, or is my phone just wonky today? Um,
Let me see. Can you guys hear me?
just
Let me if
somebody,
you
yeah, if
yeah,
you
if you
can,
could just let me know if my sound is okay. I'm
eh,
hearing everything okay. I'm hearing you okay.
okay.
Let's see.
It just sorta dropped all of a sudden.
Oh,
I don't know.
is it a little better now?
Oh,
Oh, okay.
oh,
Yeah,
yeah, she said,
everybody is saying
"Okay,
they hear me okay.
we're good. Alright,
Okay.
thank you. Sorry to interrupt about that."
No, that's
So
okay.
yeah, yeah, there's a lot of interest in that. Now, I think maybe tomorrow we can get into a
Sure.
little bit more of how the practice itself is affected by private equity.
Yeah.
And there's a whole kind of line that I don't want to go into right at the moment because first of all, I will tell you guys when I don't have my paper fact sheets with me like
Yeah.
FACTS, I get a little nervous about
No,
starting to
I
say something.
love that about you. I love because this is I'm going to learn a lot from you because you have a lot of knowledge and everybody else here that wants to get this information and anyone who has a background or anything please share with us. I
Oh
have that
yes.
subscriber chat. Also, you could go in there if you want us to ever look at anything and talk about it further. You could
And
let
come
us know
on the
too.
show too, right? I mean,
Yes, please.
we're very open to that, and Lisa and I are, right now just trying to do the reverse where we socialize ourselves outward to other shows as well, because
Correct.
this is a thing where it's like the tide raises all boats, right? You get the network effect of all of us being able to help each other out and experience something that is socially relevant and actually helpful and being using this platform as a way to do that. So,
Yes, and then
I
just
want
one more comment just real quick about the
oh,
private
yeah, please,
equity
please, please.
and because it's kind of like we were talking with Shane the other night where it was like at some point you kind of feel like we can't do anything about it, right? Like all of
Right.
these things and all of these balls that are already in motion. And that is unnerving and it makes you nervous and all that stuff. But I still maintain that the number one thing to combat what is going on and what they're trying to do is awareness.
Yeah.
So that is why with this particular subject that we're talking about right now with the private equity, I personally feel it's a five alarm fire. I know it's been going on for a long time, but
Yeah.
now that people are starting to talk about it and it's becoming like getting on people's radar, I feel like it needs to be more on people's radar, and we need to
a
shout it from the rooftops even more.
and, I gotta dovetail on the end of that because the entire Minnesota Public Utilities Commission, right?
Hmm.
They are the judge, everybody that's involved in the approval process is listening to the public voice because they know that in their very narrow role, number 1, a negative ruling towards the the company that is doing the buying, that's the acquisition company, in this case, BlackRock. They excuse me, they're independent. That judge can tell them anything. There's really no, reason for them to say yes or no except on the merits of their case, right? But when they've got a ton of people over here saying, "No, no, 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 we don't want this because here, look at all these places where rates went up by 200% or 20% or 60%." And you look at that and you go, "Well, that's not right at all." And then I got into the entire thing of, well, why can't here's a mind bender for you. I'm like, why can't the go have at it, BlackRock. Go buy all the hell, all the power source for AI that you want. If that's your goal is to consume it, because I know in my house anyway, they slap a meter on and tell me exactly down to the kilowatt decimal points how much energy I use per period of billing, right? So why can't they just bill these bozos at the AI level and the data center level for all the energy that they're sucking in, right? And you just go, so why do we all have to bear this burden of this raised amount? Well, here's the deal. Long, long ago, in a place far, far away, all of our utilities became controlled monopolies by the state. And because of that, what they do is cost allocate. They basically say it costs us X billions to upgrade our infrastructure. All of that shares as kind of a network that is impossible to discern whether it's me
Hmm.
using some of the power or Lisa
Is this
using
the
some of the
utility
power.
commissions?
What?
Is this the utility commissions?
No, no,
Or
this
this
was
is
way
different?
before. This is in into
Oh.
trust law, so I don't wanna go too far back in
Oh,
time.
okay.
But right now, just go for it, that there's this massive upgrade that occurs, and then that's to get the power to the AI's, data centers, and then, yes, the AI's data center place, they pay a little more of a premium for that energy because they're it's there. But what the way the mechanics of this work is that the utility commission says, well, everybody benefits from the more resilient infrastructure, the newer infrastructure, and most of all, somebody got to pay for all this. So that they tend to divide it equally across the board, no matter whether you're the AI company or you're the Rick Herbst household or you're the Lisa household. Those are costs that are spread proportionally out equally among all users of it. Because if in theory, what could happen is that AI company could go out of business tomorrow, and that infrastructure still has a due bill on it. There's still somebody's got to pay for it, right? And everybody would then be sharing that upgraded infrastructure, except now this company's gone, and our prices would that's where our prices would go up even more, by the
Mm,
way. So, I'm not to be
wow.
a doomsdayer, but I'm not at all, but I'm
Well,
saying what we have to do, the thing that we are in power to do, is to call these utility company you'll see that the advertising, it's consumer requests, and I'm sorry I didn't come armed with this today, with the full information, but I can post it. Is
yes.
there are numbers to call where you could voice your opinion about things. Sometimes it's just a recorded line. It just says, please leave your statement or whatever. And so you type up a paragraph or two and you say, I object to this. I don't want to see it. I can't afford a 200% rate hike. I can't afford a 1% rate hike right now. In fact, I want a rate decrease, I,
Mm.
that's the kind of thing that influences these judges, that influence the rulings that they make
That's
on whether or not transactions move forward.
so important to know. Yeah,
It is.
definitely we'll share that with you guys.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. The other thing, I think I was gonna jump into here, I wanted to cover a couple, uh we didn't talk, by the way, in terms of the energy situation about what's going on. There's a special case. We can get to this tomorrow when
Okay.
I have a little more information, but it's the nuclear power thing. There are a lot of big companies like Microsoft, OpenAI, XAI. They want to start nuclear energy. They want to literally build their own from
Hmm.
scratch nuclear energy plants, and put them online. But I don't have the information that I want to do on that. So, I did. Hold on a sec. We were going to talk about so out of the base, I guess this morning. Hold on a second. take somebody out there. Okay. Yeah, out of if, I don't know how many read my article today on adverse action daily, but it was I basically just well, first was glad that Jimmy Kimmel came back with the free speech thing. I wasn't. In fact, my focus, if anyone took it away, that I was pro Kimmel or anti Jimmy Kimmel. I don't really. He's the last one I care about. What I cared about through that whole process were the hundreds of people underneath
Yeah.
him in the hierarchy and as part of the ABC company that were getting screwed
Mhm.
because this pinball, craziness from Brendan Carr and Donald Trump and all of that was ricocheting its way through this machine and taking people out with it. And fortunately for now, the verdict is on the Kimmel side anyway. In my article, is that things are on pause right now. That's all
Yeah.
they really are. And so it's a we're grateful for pauses. Those are good. That's not bad. I'm not going to complain about it. I'll take my
Right.
pauses where I can get them. But the fight is far from over. I still do walk around, kind of look up above my head to make sure there's not an incoming lawsuit that's going to pulverize my bones to dust. So, because that's not so much fun, as the little guy, right?
Mhm.
Because these fights are going to be had,
Yeah.
and Trump is, to use the words of Jon Stewart, a vindictive prick. And he is going to come after everybody over and over and over again until somebody really smacks him hard and says, "You may not do that," and
Right.
smacks him on the head. That was Kimmel. And the second thing was Trump's, I swear to God, 25th Amendment speech to the United Nations, which was like, what in the hell is
I
up with
couldn't
this
believe
guy?
it. Yeah.
And
And I
I,
don't
you
even understand how I can't believe it, because I'll believe anything now. Like,
I
just it's unbelievable, like, all this stuff, but go on, please.
Right, the only thing he didn't come out and say was, "I wanna annex Mexico and Panama and Canada and Greenland." He didn't actually come out and say that, but I made fun of him in terms of, "Wow, this was some batshit crazy stuff," and not just me. I mean, I went and you guys know I write at night, so I have all of the stuff that's going on over in
International.
Europe on my screens, on my wall screens that I can, feed into, and all of the reporting across the UK, across Germany, across where else? Austria, Hungary no, Hungary wasn't on there, Spain and Italy. All of the local channel stations that I have that scroll up there are just in translation, just saying, this is literally insane talk from a world leader that one would expect to be much more tethered to reality. And the real essence of it was he just used a what is supposed to be 15-minute slot to air for 58 minutes his
Mm.
grievances, and it becomes so clear that this guy is a one-note wonder. He has got exactly one key on his piano that works, and it's the "I hate people," right?
Oh, yeah.
And it just insert different people, but it's the "I hate people, and I'm gonna take it out on them." And he was doing it with immigrants, he was doing it with everybody. I don't think we have to talk about what he did say other than you can listen to it. I'm not gonna repeat it and waste your time with it, but it really was 25th Amendment shit. I'm like, anybody
Mhm.
that, Jeff Teeter has put out for the 1,970th day, nobody's accepted the challenge is to take up Trump as a press reporter and just when the mic comes to him, look at Trump and go, "What the fuck is wrong with you?" And just do that because that guy would earn a lifetime Pulitzer, according to Jeff Teeter. But I think all of us kind of think that we're like, "What is this guy talking about?" And you really have a hard time stitching those thoughts together at this point. There's just a lot of nonsense. And my question is, he looks like he's rotting from his heels up and out. He was doing the full. I loved it from the Bulwark, Tim and
Yeah.
the lady he's with all the time, that's the editor in chief. Anyway, two of them are talking, and she says, "Yeah, he was in maximum Oompa Loompa makeup yesterday in front of the entire United Nations." It
Oh
was
my
bright or he really did, and they showed a shot of him under the light, and it was truly orange. I mean, it's like, holy shit, you're not
you
you're not
know,
kidding about that.
some inside information, just really quick, a little piece of levity here, but Michael Cohen, I'll listen because he's on the Midas Touch Network, and you know how he
Oh yeah.
has very close ties because he worked with him for so long. And months ago, he was talking about how he does it himself, and it's a bronzer, but it is like it's like an alcohol pad. It's on a pad, so
Okay.
he'll open it, and it's like a piece of cloth, disposable, and that's what it is that he rubs on his face.
Oh, is it?
Yeah,
Okay.
so I'm like, "Well, that makes a lot of sense because 'cause he's got a
Yeah,
clear
he's always
line of
got this thing going.
demarcation."
Yeah. Oh
So
wow, that is so
ridiculous.
funny.
Like, you would think that you would have somebody do it for you, like, you would have a makeup person
I
that,
know.
like him around, like how Melania has, like, her, hair and makeup people. I mean, it's just like, "What?" Yeah, yeah. And
It's
so no
unbelievable.
wonder that it's that kind of color. I mean, that
Yeah,
sickly
and then
orange.
the break parts, where
Yeah,
it's like, wow,
he
it's
doesn't
not
even go in
even.
the hairline.
Yeah, right on his hairline. Totally bizarre. Yeah, so, there's a
Ugh.
lot of stuff going on right now in the world that we're looking at and saying, and by the way, we're coming up into the last 7 minutes, so I wanna make sure we've got a couple things. The, I wanted to talk a little bit about Greenland because he did start spouting off about that in some ad hoc ways again. I want you to understand that I honestly believe when I look at the mechanics, like when I'm staring with my face pressed against the glass like I am every day at the news, I can almost sense when Stephen Miller is pressing the button
Mm,
for Trump or on Trump, right? That there's something there. And the particular one I felt about was Greenland today because I think Miller rolled into the White House and said it's time to start poking on that again a little bit harder. And the idea, the real big deal is not that we want to control 50. There's 57,000 occupants or residents of Greenland, and in their capital of Nuuk, NUUK, is basically a very democratic structure. The big deal with Greenland is the minerals and
yeah.
all of the stuff that we could come rolling in there with our equipment and our massive mining
Mhm.
skill and their massive mining skill in the cold to add to everything and start extracting. There's so much extractable wealth in it. And what happened, and I'm not sure what day it happened, but it was in the last couple, is that Denmark, which controls Greenland from a political perspective and supports Greenland from a military and a NATO alliance and governing body and their currency backup and all their central banking, they did some stuff that was pretty scary back in the 1950s and 60s to people who are now obviously much older, but have aged, and they issued a formal apology for this particular thing, which was from the top down of I think it was the prime minister, uh, stated that, "Hey, you guys, look, we recognize as indigenous people of Greenland that back in the 1960s, we hauled the girls out into these like makeshift classrooms that were slash doctor offices with almost no privacy while they were teens, and they implanted a significant number of them with these interuterine, I think they
The
are
IUDs.
blockers, right?
Mm.
So they were giving them birth control basically forced and not explaining it at the age of like 13 or 14. And the Denmark, this was the oversight government, and they did not explain. This was like a war crime level type stuff, right? So because you can't do population control, that's very illegal under the Wartime Act. The name is escaping me right now
The
specifically.
Geneva
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 Convention.
Conventions. Thank you. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
Rick to the Lisa to Rick's rescue.
Yeah.
Thank you. So they issued an apology, right? It's a very formal, very thorough. We're very sorry for this. We will, we're working on how to, give you some kind of reparations for this, to express our gratitude for, and apologies for what we did wrong because we screwed it up. Even though the people that actually did it are now mostly dead, and this is the next generation, that's fine. they're still going to try to make that effort. The problem with it is the timing, and it's because Trump, shows up at the United Nations. He starts poking around with this stuff in terms of Greenland and wanting, again to start stirring up this acquisition of that land. And so it sounds kind of artificial coming from Denmark at this particular moment that they're making this apology to the indigenous people of Greenland. So that was one thing that occurred that was uncool and not universally well received in Greenland because of the fact that it did feel timing wise like it's like, well, you're saying this right at the most opportune time you could say it, to benefit you and not us. So we'll see what comes of it. But uh, in January or February, I believe they did a poll, and it was very much, anti being assimilated by America. And the same thing was true with Canada. Same thing was true with Panama. It's like we would be breaking not only our United States code in so many ways and places, just trying to do something like this. We would be, breaking probably hundreds, if not thousands, of established parts of different treaties that forbid us from doing that, and it have been in place since, like, if not some of them going back to World War One, most of them coming after World War Two. So, yeah, that was my other thing, and it's just it makes me irritated every time we have this conversation where it's like it's only when it's politically advantageous it seems that the apologies come out.
Yep.
And for us in America, we are these scientific experts at doing it that way. It's like we will apologize to the indigenous Americans when that's the exact right time for us.
Mhm.
And yet as Caucasians, you almost want to feel some shame in your history because it's like, wow, we did some of the most horrific shit to people,
Yeah,
and I don't know what to say. When I read it sometimes. If you ever read
I
Heather
know.
Cox Richardson's book, How the South Won,
Mhm.
excuse me, how the South won the Civil War, I think is the name of it.
Hmm.
She gets into a bunch of examples of how horrible white
Yeah, the
people can be, and
colonialism and, like, all
you
the
know,
yeah.
yep. So that was that. I don't know. We are almost there, but did you have any other things that you wanted to bring up, Lisa?
Not tonight, actually. I think, those were the things that we talked about earlier that we were gonna touch on, and I think we did a pretty good job, like,
Yeah,
being pretty
somehow.
succinct. I know. I'm so proud of us. Um, yeah, we, like, made our points and everything. Let me see. I
Thank you,
was taking a
Lynn.
look. Yeah, I was taking a look. I was trying to keep up with some of the comments. Daniel was saying it's like our reputation is gone, like America's reputation on the world stage.
Yeah,
When you were talking about, yeah, like all of
about
the
about the
disastrous
United Nations
UN.
address.
Oh my god.
We really blew it.
Yeah. I mean, this is just I mean, I could just see like all of those foreign leaders sitting there watching him as he was just saying the most preposterous one of the things that a clip that I just saw where he was saying your countries are going to hell bit, where he was right about no, he's right
Oh,
about everything, and the
Trump was
hat
right
that
about everything.
and
It's
there's a
his
hat that
best-selling
says
hat.
so. It's like I don't think I could watch the whole thing from beginning to end. I don't know,
No,
I'm
you
probably
you
gonna have
couldn't
to.
because you get to that kind of stuff that he says where it's like Trump was right about everything. It's like, what boy, you really do live in your own
Yes,
little fantastical world that is managed by these fantastical people that make sure that, is like a petulant toddler. I've said this 1,000
exactly.
times where I think everybody in the UN room that if you watch the whole thing end to end was like sitting on their hands and they were afraid to breathe because it's
Right.
like, oh my God, don't move, don't alert the
That's what it looked like.
don't. It's like dealing. I think Tim Miller
Yes.
from the Bulwark said it like something like the closest analogy you could come up to is like having a monkey with a gun, and just a machine gun, and so right in front of the podium. That was
Mhm.
the way everybody was kind of acting around Trump, like just satiate him,
It's a
make sure
pretty
they
good
don't.
analogy
Yeah,
considering. Yeah.
yeah,
Wow.
and it's an amazing thing. Well, hey, all right. Well, with that, then we will let you all go. Thank you so much for joining tonight. It's been
Thank
a real
you.
pleasure, and
Yes.
we're going to be back tomorrow, and we will talk to you then. I hope you have
Yes.
a great evening and a great day as we get things started rolling for the next one. Take
You
care.
guys
Bye.
have a good night. We'll see you
Bye.
later.
All right.